everybody. Welcome back to the Deborah Peters Show. My name is Deborah Peters, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have you join me today. Before I tell you about my guest, let me just share with you a little bit about why I do this podcast. The world is changing, change is afoot, and it's uncharted waters. You know, we really don't know how to navigate all of this, most of us. I mean, seriously, did you really ever think that in your lifetime you would go through a pandemic and be locked in your house for months and have the fear of death put into you to the point where you were afraid to talk to anybody? No, of course you didn't. And so what's happening is there's this massive shift in consciousness. I'm certain that whatever you went into that experience thinking about yourself and feeling about your life, that it's definitely not the same today. And so I decided to create this podcast to cover 5 pillars: health, wealth, relationships, self-expression, and business. I'm seeing a lot of people that were in jobs really seriously launching their own businesses and growing their own entities. And you know, nothing can be more exciting than getting out on your own and creating your own reality. So that's really what we're focused on here on this show, is helping you raise your conscious awareness and dial in and tune in to your greatness, find your gifts, tap into your talents, expand your skills, and dig into your wisdom and pull that all together so that you create a fulfilling and joyful life, and that you actually are in charge of your health, your wealth, your relationships thrive, and the list goes on. So today's guest, what a great segue. Today's guest is Judith Weigle, and she is a divorce expert. We got talking about how divorce is obviously a costly experience. I've never been through one, but I've had a lot of friends go through divorce at least once. And it can cost you, you know, the moon, the stars, and your home, your wealth. It can cost you a lot. But what about beyond what it costs you in the material world to how it impacts you in your business life, your ability to perform? And so that's what today's conversation is all about. Welcome, Judith. Thank you so much for joining me.
I really love it. Deborah, this is my 3rd time, and I just enjoy these conversations. I love the way you think. I love what you're presenting to your audience.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, really, you know, for me, it's like, let's not look at just what's on the surface like everybody else and then react to that and feel out of control and triggered mentally, emotionally, and just, it's nonsense. It's like, let's really unpack the situation, deduce it down to the thing we can change, and then change it or get the tools to change it.
Absolutely. And every time I leave these interviews, I'm very inspired. I really appreciate that you dig beneath the surface. And the whole point of this is to transform somehow, some way, in whatever the topic area is about.
True. So true. You know, I think most people feel powerless because their senses are triggered by what's happening in the world. And they don't know how to like kind of take a step back and go, wait a minute, what's really going on here? And does this affect me? If so, how does this affect me? And then how am I going to handle this? And where am I going to put my focus? So what's going on in corporate America when business leaders go through divorce? What's happening there?
So this has been an enormous transformation since mid-year last year. In July of last year, I started thinking, I want to go out and share the knowledge and information that I have learned in 10 years at that time of working as a divorce mediator. I started looking at, well, what group of people could I really help? And I said, well, my own clients have jobs, and I know they're not performing well on their jobs while they're in the middle of doing the divorce. And that's almost everybody. They have to work. So let me approach that area of their lives, their work lives, and let's see if we can't mitigate the stress and the detachment they experience when they're at work while they're trying to do their divorce at the same time. And I went to a human resources meeting in July of last year, and I presented the concept of presenteeism. Presenteeism is being present at work but not productive. And that's where you have around $300 billion of lost revenue yearly in corporate America. Nobody understood what I was
How
talking about.
much?
300 billion. And
Oh my
those
God.
come out of the US Department of Labor Statistics and out of the Center for Disease Control. It's an epidemic. That's what it's considered, an epidemic. So it's a heck of a lot of money, right? From July of last year until now, I'm starting to see people catch on, and they want to address this. They look at it as a mental health crisis because you are in despair.
Yeah.
You can't go through the grieving that you find in divorce, and there's a lot of grieving, and still be focused and productive at work. So
Well, even just, separation anxiety, right? We joke about our pets having separation anxiety, but I mean, I'm an empathetic person. So I kind of wear my heart on my sleeve. That's just who I am, and I've embraced that. But I can tell you, because of that, that when I go through a breakup, I mean, man, it can be crushing. If I'm really invested emotionally in that person, and it's not just the emotional investment, it's the energetic investment. So suddenly now that person, that energy, that what's the word I'm looking for, predictable, part of your life is like ripped out.
that is interesting. So yes, we're all energy. And when somebody dies, when somebody moves, just when a friend moves out of town,
Yeah.
your energy changes to accommodate a different set of friends, or to accommodate that loss of energy. You lose, you feel empty for a while, so you have
You
to
do.
restructure. Well, there are a ton of employees, and there are fewer managers, business owners, and C-suite people. So while everybody's trying to address the employees, and we have to, my clients are the employees in large measure, there is an unspoken segment of corporate America that I think we need to address for two reasons. A, they suffer in silence because they're expected to suffer in silence. Those are
Yeah,
the
you don't have
leaders.
problems.
Right,
You're in the
exactly.
C-suite. Why would you have a problem? You have everything.
Yeah. Well, they're no different than anybody else when personal tragedy enters their lives. That's the leveler. Personal tragedy is the leveler. And I wanted to address this group, although everything we're saying today, Deborah, applies to everybody. But I
Sure.
wanted to hone in because nobody's really focusing on the leaders. The leaders need to lead. They can't not lead, but they can't be afraid to be human at the same time, right?
Well, and the thing is, so I've coached CEOs for 20 some years, let's say that. And in that process, I'm gonna reveal something, and that is most CEOs feel inadequate because they're having to figure out so much all the time, and they're under the spotlight, and the pressure's on from all different angles. And so inside they're like, oh my God, but they'll never let that show. And do you think that plays into if they have a broken marriage? Like suddenly, is that some kind of a reflection on their ability to be a leader?
I think so. I think it's that on steroids for them. That change in their personal life. People look at divorce as a failure. And I
They
think
do.
that's wrong.
Society looks at divorce as a failure.
Well, I know you don't, because I know you so well in how you think, and I don't either. I think we agree, Deborah, that life is a journey.
Yeah.
And anything that comes into our lives is there for a reason. It's to help us learn. The last line of my confirmation emails when I schedule a client to come in is, divorce is a new beginning.
Yes. 100%.
And it is. So you have to be self-reflective, obviously, in all of your life. You have to be self-reflective. But that doesn't mean that you're less than if your marriage didn't work out. And let's just say you're the perpetrator. Let's just say you did things that really did destroy the fabric of your marriage. Okay, fine. Do you know how much an apology, a heartfelt apology, can change everything for you?
Well, and yes. And I would say first start with forgiving yourself for projecting your unresolved pains from your past onto your spouse that would cause your spouse to leave you. I think that's the biggest piece right there is, of course, you need to apologize for your wrongs to your spouse or ex-spouse, but as they're on their way out the door, hopefully before they leave, but nonetheless, it's never too late to apologize.
Right.
And yet that starts with an inward journey of apologizing to yourself for not keeping the agreement with yourself that you will stay in alignment between your head and your heart. We come into this world aligned. We come in, little kids. Let's just talk about little kids for a second. Little kids have these robust imaginations, and they really truly believe that their imagination is reality, and whatever they're thinking up, they're living. And then as we grow up to be adults, we get that programmed out of us, And so we forget about aligning our head with our heart. We forget about when we have a dream to actually believe in it. Instead, when we have a dream, we doubt it. Like that's the status quo program. So the first thing is to forgive yourself for getting so far out of alignment with you that you actually wreak havoc on another individual whom you love, another individual's peace of mind and happiness.
Yes. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And that goes back to not feeling worthy.
Yeah.
So if you are correct, which I believe you are, working so much with leaders of companies, that there's a piece of them that may feel unworthy that they have to cover up. Oh my gosh, what will divorce do to them now?
Yes. And how will people see me?
Right. And can I even ask for help? Should I ask for help? Do I need? Yes, you need help.
I'll tell you a story. So I had a client that when he got married, he asked me to weigh in on their marriage before they walked down the aisle. So we did some couples coaching, and I saw these massive conflicts between them. And so my suggestion was that they wait, which they didn't. And it turned into the most tumultuous relationship one can imagine, which didn't end well. But they didn't get divorced right away. So the divorce drug on for, I don't know how long, 10 years, maybe. And in that time, it was more tumultuous, again, butting heads. And then, even for like another 5-8 years after that, it was, there's still, when you have children with someone, they're in your life forever. And so there's no avoiding the need for that communication. And the thing is that the whole thing could have been avoided if they would have taken my advice that they paid for and spent some time aligning their values so that at least when they started the marriage, they were on the same page. But the point of this is during that time, all that time, on and off over the years, I would coach this CEO in various business ventures that he had. And man, it just was a colossal choke point for him on so many levels.
The divorce?
Yeah, just the breakdown of the marriage. I mean, they were both public figures and larger than life. So a lot of people were privy to what was going on, and it was just enormous. And so the toll on his mental capacity to stay positive and not be triggered in an angst kind of way in every part of his life. I mean, he was just constantly triggered. And it bled into every relationship he had and every part of his business, every business he launched and grew. That whole thing was emotionally and energetically present through like 20 years at least. Yeah. What did that cost? It'd be interesting, to your point, to go back and go, okay, I wonder how many deals got left on the table. I wonder how many relationships got burned. I wonder how many poor health situations were manifested. Like, what's the cost of all of that? I don't know.
It's everything that you named. It is everything, because I've seen this happen with my own clients. You're so stressed that then you can get cancer. I've had a client that just got cancer because she was so stressed. Some years ago, I was working with a couple, and once the divorce was final, she came back to get a certified divorce decree. She looked 20 years younger.
Oh, I'm
The
sure.
stress was gone. I was in shock. So you have two things going on with people, especially when we're talking about our business leaders, who not only have to control the health and welfare of the company that they're leading, but they have to control the health and welfare of themselves. So you have two things happening. You have them really having to function and guide the company and guide other employees who may be going through the same
thing.
Yeah.
And then that triggers stuff.
Yeah.
I think as we, and I say we like as a humanity, become more enlightened and more aware of what it is that we're creating through our thoughts and through our emotions, and that takes a greater foothold within company culture, then organizations can be at least, if not better equipped, more aware to have some compassion and maybe some kind of a system around handling that. Like maybe you don't have the budget. Let's say you're a small business. You don't have the budget to have a coach on staff or a psychologist on staff or whatever. However, you have an awareness that this divorce is a massive stressor, and it creates upheaval in a person's personal life. And when a person's personal life is going upside down, then it stands to reason that them as a professional, they're going to be challenged in a lot of different ways that maybe aren't even visible to the naked eye. Like it could be just all this turmoil inside. And to, maybe have some mental health days for them. I don't know, but there's so much available today. There's apps for mental health coaching. There's, maybe a company could have a retreat where, they could fund a retreat where these executives could go. Maybe it's $1,000 or $1,500 to send them to a retreat for a day or two. But really, at the end of the day, what's that? When you use the example that I gave, like the offset of that is. Not
Okay.
even on the
So
radar.
you kind of nailed what I was going to talk about, and that is a retreat just for C-suite. And that's what I'm developing with a partner. Her name is Patty McGuire. She's so much like you, I can't even tell you. She really gets into the psychology of everything. And we were talking about the worthiness, the feeling of worthiness that goes on with executives, that it's just amped up when some upheaval in their personal lives, and they need to be among each other when they're going through help. So there's a program I'm in the middle of developing so that we can just focus on C-suite. We can first of all get them straight with their own worthiness. And then there are steps that I have learned throughout my 11 years as a divorce mediator. I've pulled from the best experts, the experts in communication, the experts in legal. I actually noticed something that I have contributed to a process. It's a 4-pronged process, 4 steps, that if these 4 steps can be taken, and I'll give you quickly what they are, you are now in control of your divorce. And control is part of what C-suite goes through. You are expected to be in control of the company, control of the finances, and control of the branding, control of the employees.
Control of your emotions.
Now we're in control of your emotions. So quickly, those 4 steps that we present, along with the emotional intelligence portion that Patty brings to the table, those 4 steps that I've learned and aggregated are: once you know a divorce is imminent, don't file. Take time. Go through the emotional divorce. Go through the grieving. And then you're ready to file. Unless there's something going on with the kids and there's an emergency, sans that.
Sure.
Go through the grieving as if you're grieving a loss. Then file after that. You'll have a clear mind, a clear heart. You'll know how to choose your team properly. You'll make a better choice if you have to hire a lawyer or a mediator. That's step 1. Step 2, communication skills for conflict. You have to talk in a different way to get a better result with your spouse. Number 3, and this is what I contributed, compartmentalize time. This is specific to corporate America. Use work as your respite from divorce.
Yes.
Don't try and do the divorce paperwork during your job.
At your office.
At your office. Don't do it. Get a separate email. Don't use your office email. Put divorce in its place and then work on it. So compartmentalize time. And then 4th, develop a self-care program with laughter. You need to get a balance in your head and your heart. Laughter compensates for so much. And the Mayo Clinic has all these statistics on their website to use laughter as the best medicine.
True. It's the best way to heal and give your immune system a boost, right?
Right. So with this approach to divorce specifically, and then with Patty dealing with all of the emotional aspects that you're going to go through in your worthiness assessment, and really going back to, where did your self-worth develop from? So I'm going to bring you into this now.
Yeah.
Where does our self-worth emanate from, Deborah?
Childhood. 100%. You know, there's an old saying that we either marry our mother or our father.
Yeah.
And then we spend our marriage trying to change our spouse. I can't even tell you how many of my clients have said to me, can you fix my wife? Because most of my clients have been men. Can you fix my wife? You know, and it's like, I don't work outside of you. You know, I'll work with you and you can shift you. And when you shift you, your perception of them changes and then they respond differently. But that's the only place you have any power. You don't have any power trying to change someone else. It's impossible. And how dare you? Like, why would you? I mean, what's so fascinating to me is people fall in love with someone and then they want to change them later. It's like, but then they won't be the person you fell in love with.
Right. That's right.
It's ridiculous.
That's right. That is so interesting that whether we do it consciously or unconsciously, we do set about reining in our spouse, don't we?
We do. And I think
Point.
I think women do that a lot. I don't want to hang this all on the female sex, but I think women do that a lot. And I've met a lot of men that really like that kind of thing until they don't, you know.
Right.
So
Exactly.
it's cool until it's like, okay, you can work on changing me on all the things that I want you to do for me so I don't have to do them. But don't work on changing me on the areas that I'm happy with, even if it's dysfunctional, you know? So that's a big issue. And that just comes from not being in alignment with yourself. You know, we see parts of us that we're not happy with in others. You know, first of all, what is love? You know, like maybe we start with the root cause. Love is when we love on someone else, it's because they're reflecting back to us parts about ourselves that we love.
Right.
And then as soon as there's some part of us being reflected back that we don't like so much or that we haven't healed yet, that's maybe a gaping wound or a hidden wound that is a blind spot we haven't been aware of, then we don't like them so much because they're the mirror.
Right.
So there's just, I mean, this is like such a huge subject.
I know it is huge. And so we bring this with us wherever we go until we can get it under control. While you were talking, I just thought of something and I said, you know, leaders are used to leading. That's their nature. They like leading. Now, are they in alignment with the corporate culture they're working with? If they're not the owners of a company, I guess one of the first things to look at is, are your values actually in alignment with your company's values? If you can say yes, great. That's a good step one. Now, in the philosophical position of using divorce as a new beginning, how about this, Deborah? How about those C-suite people, those management people who are going through divorce and having to deal with it themselves? How about they become the leaders in dealing with divorce in their own corporate culture?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I'm curious if one was to do some sort of a survey, how many, by, you know, all things being equal, what percentage of executive leadership get divorced in comparison to what percentage of middle management, what percentage of the workforce. So, you know, obviously it's going to be relative to the pool size, but I'm just curious about percentage because I would think that the biggest percentage of divorce would be among leadership because and I'm not suggesting that they are special because they have a lot of responsibility and that other levels of workforce don't. I'm not suggesting that at all. But I do know from coaching them that it's coming at them from the board of directors. It's coming at them from their management team. It's coming at them from their client base, from their P&L. It's coming at them from their workforce in general. It's coming at them from the market changes in the marketplace, economy, you know, their stock price. Like it just is, it's a 24/7, 365. You'd never have a respite from it really, unless you've really well trained, which you should be, someone in a right and left hand position that can truly shoulder the responsibility with you so you can take a step back from it. But you know, then there's all the control freaks, speaking of control, that would never allow that to happen because then it's suddenly like, well, I actually had this one CEO say to me, if I bring you in, people will think I don't know what I'm doing.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. No, that's a perfect example. That is
I'm
a
like,
perfect
wow.
example. And that's so wrong. I mean, even Brene Brown will tell us, right, that vulnerability is the key. Vulnerability allows us to connect with each other.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you need to have Brene Brown tell you that? Or can you understand that for yourself? You
Well,
can understand that for
I
yourself.
think we need people to tell us that so that we can say, okay, great, this is our get out of emotional jail free card.
I think on a deep level, like, you know that about yourself, you know, I hesitate for giving credit to other people for what we break through within ourselves. And it just comes back to our relationship dynamics in general, you know.
Deborah, your clients would not be as advanced as they are if it wasn't for you. Come on now.
Yeah, but I teach them to be their own guru, you know. It's
Well,
like,
but so does Brene. So do other people in this field. Tony Robbins.
I
I mean, we could
suppose,
name a
yeah.
myriad of these people, but we do need somebody to get us going, to get us thinking, to give us tools and resources. So I want people in those extreme levels of leadership to understand that vulnerability is healthy. It's good.
Yeah.
And maybe just to connect with each other then, because only leaders understand what leaders are going through.
It's true. It's really true.
So let's do that for them. And then you can be influential as a leader to create the corporate culture underneath you and around you.
With empathy and compassion.
Oh my God, compassion, respect, empathy, these are very important emotions and emotional skill sets to have.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think we're growing into that. I mean, I'm seeing that in the companies that I'm coaching I have a lot of clients right now in the construction industry, and I'm seeing that coming into the construction industry in a huge way, which, you know, one would think that construction, engineering, like sort of the manly kind of industries might be the last to get that, but they are really truly, there's a shift happening there.
It's a shift of soft power. I almost said feminine power, or, you know, a feminine influence.
Well, that's okay.
Is that okay?
Feminine power, good. You don't have to.
In that transition stage where this is being acknowledged, and it's important. It should. Soft power is important.
Yeah, and it's to clarify that feminine power isn't being a girl, and it isn't being feminine in your ways. It's tapping into the left side of your brain, or sorry, the right side of your brain. So left side is logical, linear, right side is receptive, it's flow, it's allowing, it's perceptive. And so that's the feminine side. So it has nothing to do with, you know, whether you're a guy or a man's man or any of that stuff. And same with women in terms of the logical linear side. It's you have to find that balance and make that alignment between logical linear thinking and being receptive to, you know, you put it all out there and you take all that action. Now it's about being receptive and allowing that flow to come in. It's a delicate balance that we're not taught. It's an either or kind of thing that's ingrained in us. And, you know, it's really not until one does some good spiritual personal growth work that you actually discover that, hey, these actually work better as one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, I want to bring up something else that I think is a little bit of a culprit, and I don't really know how it can change, but maybe it can, what I'm going to say can change as a result of what we learned through COVID. Because we all, as you mentioned at the beginning of this episode, we all changed through COVID. We had to. And so we came to different awarenesses. But I live in Los Angeles. So I live in the entertainment industry and the real estate industry, right? These are our two biggest industries. We have type A people all over the place, and type A people work all day long, well into the evening. And I often said to myself as I was meeting these entertainment leaders, how do you keep a family together if you're never at home? Well, the easy answer is I don't. I get divorced a few times, and because it doesn't work. And so just the perception of how do we get to be the leaders that we want to be and that we should be because we're good at it, and how do we have a personal life? How do we keep a marriage and a family together?
Well, you know, it's like there's so many answers to that. You know, on one side of the coin, you could argue that when you are dating someone, you are really clear and upfront about your work ethic. And so you date someone and you align with someone that shares that. Because if you've got someone at home waiting for you and you're never home, that's not going to work. So that's, again, it comes back to a values alignment. The other argument could be, and it's going to maybe one is good for all on this side of the spectrum, and then one is good for all on this side of the spectrum, or maybe it's a mashup. You know, it's then saying, okay, I want to marry this person. I want to have this life commitment. This is what I want out of my marriage. Are we in agreement? Yes. What's it going to take to make this work, to allow this to blossom? And then you have to make choices about how you're going to spend your time in order for that to happen. It's just like when you say, I'm building an empire and, you know, I want to be the next richest person in the world. Well, you have to be prepared to sacrifice everything.
Yeah.
You know, because there's only 24 hours in a day.
Yes.
And so where are you spending that time? Multitasking does not work. It never worked. It creates split energy. It's a fragmentation of our mind. And it actually is talk about creating cancer, like causing stress on the cellular structure, on the metabolic system. It's number one. So it really is about how well can I compartmentalize? And those compartments are what I'm dedicating to each of those compartments. Is that enough to create the end goal I would want to have? And is that sustainable? And those are the kinds of conversations that need to be had before people go tie the knot, instead of being like, oh my God, I love you, let's get married and live happily ever after. And then reality kicks in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, you raised such excellent points. And so I kind of want to circle back to everything and tie it up. And that is, so many of us have a worthiness issue. I just love that you brought that up initially, and that kind of is a secret in the leadership category. And you have a lot on your shoulders when you're a leader. So
Yeah.
yes, I guess going back to, am I good enough? Am I doing this right? Am I producing the way I need to produce? That has to be one thing. And then, you know, if you have this emotional upheaval in your life called a divorce, it's okay. It's just okay. It's a life lesson. And so let's work with you so you can compartmentalize time and put divorce in its place, so you can be a leader in divorce and how to work with people going through divorce in your company so that you can still be a productive entity.
Yeah. And to look at, as an organization, what are we doing within our culture to address the obvious? You know, we have staff, we have leadership, we have people, and people are in relationships, and relationships come to a close. And how are they navigating that? And what are we doing as a company to support them in that navigation so that they can heal and maintain their productivity with their productivity being their outlet.
Right. And what I realized when I was preparing my first workshop on this recipe for a heart healthy divorce, that's what I call the four ingredients. I say, you know what? We have two families. And I think this is where corporate America is coming around. We have our obvious personal family, but then we have our family at work
Our
with
work family.
whom we spend the greatest number of waking hours.
It's true. So it better be good.
Yes.
Better be a good family.
Right. So if we treat our business as our corporate family and give that family the care and attention that we hope we're giving our personal family, now we're in alignment. Now we're on the right track. And if we can heal C-suite and get them healthy and productive and focused correctly, they've got great businesses they can continue to run. And talk about employee retention. Oh my God, as an employee, if you have an employer who is sensitive to you going through divorce or a personal crisis, are you going to leave?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Not there because of the money. You're there because of the connection to the people.
The emotional connection, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know I tell that to my clients all the time that are complaining about not finding staff right now. And I'm like, you're just approaching it in the wrong way, but that's another conversation. What would you like to end off and give people your URL for your website?
So you can reach me at divorceresourceinc.com, divorceresourceinc.com. I'm in Los Angeles, but working at large. So
that's great.
Yes, let's start a conversation and let's see how I can help you.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for being on here with me today. I think that our conversations are always rich and they could just go on forever, which we don't have that much time. But I hope we dropped some nuggets today for people. I'm pretty sure we did. And I appreciate you so much.
And the same back at you. Thank you for asking me. I get to listen to you and learn while I'm actually enjoying being part of your interview. Thank you.
My pleasure. And remember, everyone, to like, subscribe, hit the bell button on YouTube if that's where you're watching. It'll give you a heads up the next time I post. And definitely share this information with your colleagues. Let's build the numbers. I'd like to get this channel up to about 10,000 listeners and viewers and then hit some million likes at some point here. So I need your help to do that. And remember, there's a leadership and management retreat happening in Newport Beach on the 22nd of June. And there's one in Savannah, Georgia on the 11th of May. Just head over to leadershipandmanagementretreat.com for all of the details. And I look forward to seeing y'all soon. Mwah. Much love.